I've been playing New Horizons since day one, but I'm always learning something new. After all, this game is packed with so many different features and gameplay mechanics, there's honestly a lot to try and remember. Regardless of whether you've been playing the game for a long time like me, or you've just joined us as a new player, I love making these tips videos to help people learn even more about the game. So I've decided to compile some of my favorite tips that I've shared in Animal Crossing New Horizons. And hopefully we can all learn something new about the game. So leave a like on the video if you're ready for some Animal Crossing tips and tricks, and let's jump right into this. Starting us off, good luck with your tools. Now in case you didn't know, you can head to Harv's Island, and once you've unlocked Katrina's shop, she will read your fortune every day, letting you know whether you've got good luck or bad luck. It's a really useful feature honestly, because it can definitely affect the outcome of how your day goes. A really important one, however, is getting good luck with belongings, especially if you want to be moving a lot of things around your island or digging up things like flowers. When you get good luck with belongings, it means your tools cannot break for that day, so you don't have to worry about however many times you use them, they are invincible, which is really useful. Like I said, maybe you're trying to clear up hundreds and hundreds of flowers that have spread mercilessly across your island. And if that's the case, then you definitely want good luck with belongings, because this will save you from having to buy more tools each and every time you on breaks, or having to guess when they're about to run out and customize them to reset their durability, which I guess is another tip in itself. Katrina has a ton of other fortunes too, which are really good, and yeah, you can get some bad luck as well, but honestly, there's nothing too major that would really affect or ruin your experience, so just go for it. Try and get your fortune read every day. This is definitely the thing you should do to start off your day in New Horizons in my opinion, as it can really help you out and give you some fantastic bonuses that you might not have known about. Whilst we're on Halves, another character who sets up shop here is Red, who is generally pretty hated amongst the Animal Crossing community for scamming us with his fake art. Now, I'm not going to condone him here, but there is technically a way you can help yourself to avoid being scammed by Red, which is really useful. And this might seem kind of obvious, but you know what, I wanted to share it anyways because it is still an important tip. Use the internet, kind of like what you're doing right now. Now, I don't have time within this video to give you a full guide myself, but there are many websites which actually have documented each and every painting by Red and compared the fake ones with the real ones. That means you can go onto the website and see what he's currently selling and compare the two images. Does it look like the fake one or the real one? If you do this, then it'll help you avoid having to waste your money on fake art, which is effectively useless, unless you want it for some reason, of course. I know it sounds kind of weird to say use the internet when you're watching a video on the internet right now, but there are so many people who don't know that these guides have been compiled. If you are a long-time Animal Crossing player and you played Animal Crossing New Leaf like me, then you'll definitely know about this. We all used that guide back in the day. But we also have a lot of new players too who don't know exactly how this mechanic works. So I definitely wanted to make people aware that this is a thing. You can definitely look it up online. There are lots of guides that have been made for us. Another one for Harv's Island. We have Cyrus here, and did you know he can actually customize certain items to have a weathered effect? And these all honestly look so cool. Now the full list of these items is the baobab tree, the candle chandelier, the fence, the fire hydrant, the floral sconce, the gazebo, the meter and pipes, the milk can, the mini car, the mop, the retro transportation stop, the skateboard, the steel fence, the storage shed, the tank, the windmill, and also the yacht. All of these items have an exclusive weathered customization that Cyrus can give you, which is really cool. I just love how some of these look so much, especially ones like the windmill where they just look so rusty and run down. I know it kind of sounds like that wouldn't be good, but when you're trying to make certain themes around your island and making like little rural towns and such, it just works so well honestly. So yeah, this is one that I absolutely love. I definitely recommend getting some of these customizations if you have these items. You don't know, there's lots of fun ways you could use them around your island. Moving on to your island, villagers can actually sing through the mics placed on your island. You'll definitely want to place some of these around as villagers might take up singing with them, which is really fun and super adorable. There'll actually be some little voice effects too if they do decide to sing with the microphone. I think there's some other sort of items they can kind of do this with that are sort of similar to microphones too. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Of course, they'll also sing to the music around them as well if you want them to sing something more specific, so you can kind of really tailor your villagers' singing experience in this game, which is something I find really fun. Now, if you've got these piggy bank and donation box items, you can actually double the bells that are inside of it if it's a hot item. Later on in this video, I'm going to explain a little bit more about these, but I just wanted to quickly go over the fact that yeah, you can make a ton of money from Nook's Cranny using these if you're lucky enough to get them as a hot item. You just have to fill them up with bells and you'll get double the amount, which is amazing. This is honestly kind of like an exploit really in the game. Even though Nintendo did technically intend it, it really feels a little bit broken. You do have to get lucky enough, of course, to get that hot item, which can be really tricky. But if you do, then you could sell a ton of these filled with bells and you'll make so much money in the game. It's definitely a neat little trick if you're looking for something fun and interesting to do, maybe a different way of making money than usual. Onto the DLC, you can actually give your villagers chocolate if you want them to come to the archipelago. If you want to design a home specifically for your own villagers, then you'll need to gift them chocolate on your main island, something that you can buy from the shop in the main office. I love this so much. It's great that our own villagers can still be involved with the DLC, and it's not just like they randomly appear and they don't know you or anything like that. These are the villagers from your island with all their memories intact, which is good. So it really connects the DLC to the main part of the game. I really like that because I think sometimes with some games they can feel very separate, so being able to invite your villagers over and decorate their home and such is something I love a lot. Now if you're looking to be really lazy, here's a fun tip. You don't actually have to properly design homes in Happy in Paradise if you don't want to. If you're simply looking to get that Pokey currency as soon as possible and get everything unlocked as quickly as you can, then you can do that. You literally do not have to do anything with the homes except open the boxes. Once all of the boxes are open within a client's home, boom, you can finish right then and there, which is really funny to me. It is a bit of a shame because then it kind of feels like you're wasting your money in a sense by not really making the most of it, but hey, maybe you just want the unlocks, maybe you want the items and the features you get from the DLC, which I totally understand, they're really cool. So if you do want to do that, I just want to let you know there is a quick way of doing it. Also, if you have the DLC, you'll notice that you can get special tips from Lotty as well as Tom, Nook, and Isabelle. This is if you've unlocked the little thing from the Nook Miles tab or got it from Tom Nook at the start of the game, which basically gives you little tips on the loading screens. Usually it's Tom Nook and Isabelle, but you might not know that if you've purchased the DLC, of course Happy in Paradise, then you will get tips from Lotty as well which are related to it. These are all really useful, honestly, and I definitely get a lot of inspiration for these videos from these tips, so thank you Lotty, Tom Nook, and Isabelle. Next, there are certain Pocket Camp items in the game which can only be received by trading. As of November 28th, 2024, these items became unavailable to obtain yourself, so from that point onwards, you would basically have to trade with other players online. Whether that's locally or online with another player, it's up to you, but these items can no longer be catalogued unless you got them before the collaboration ended on November 28th, 2024. These items are really cool and celebrated Pocket Camp before it closed down. And some of them are really good for designing your campsite around your island. I honestly can't even imagine some of these not being on my island at this point, so definitely make sure to get these in whatever way you can. And another thing that I wish I knew sooner, you can't catalog everything. Like I mentioned, you can't catalog these Pocket Camp items. You also can't catalog things like posters, you'll have to get them yourself. So yes, whilst you can trade with other players and get these items and add them to your island in whatever way you want, without being able to catalog certain things, you won't be able to purchase them more times yourself. Generally, a lot of players go to islands to catalog things. It's a really useful feature, so you don't have to worry about just getting one of an item. You can simply purchase more and more whenever you need them. But yeah, there are quite a few items, especially limited time, seasonal things, posters, things like the collaboration items with Sanrio and Pocket Camp that you just can't catalog. You'll have to obtain yourself. Whilst we're kind of near resident services, if your bulletin board has a bird on it or an owl at night, it means there is news on here for you to read. I honestly ignore the bulletin board a lot, which is something I want to try and get better at as it is such a cute feature, but yeah, just a neat little way of telling if there's actually anything new for you to read up on. I especially love the fact that the bird changes at night too. That's such a cool little detail that they added. One of my favourite times of the year in Animal Crossing is the cherry blossom season, and I'm sorry I was too lazy to get footage for it. I would have had to literally time travel through the whole year to do this. But you can imagine what it looks like. It has those beautiful pink trees all around your island. However, one thing you should definitely know is if you actually want to enjoy those pink cherry blossom trees, then you will need to plant more than just fruit and pine trees. A lot of people just tend to plant a lot of fruit trees because obviously that's going to earn them bells and such, and it adds a bit more sort of variety to the island. But if you don't have the regular hardwood trees, then you're not going to get those cherry blossoms, and that would be such a shame. There are other benefits too, like being easier to get wood from, you don't have to drop the fruit every time, and good to hunt items from and such. So yeah, definitely make sure you plant lots of regular hardwood trees around the island. Now if you're sick of the way a home looks in New Horizons, you can actually reset it. This is if you have the DLC, Isabelle will have a feature which allows you to reset a villager's home. This is just like how you might reset their outfit or their catchphrase, so it's very easy to do. This also means that if your starter villagers still have boring, bland homes, which they often come with in this game, then you can reset them to what they are supposed to look like. I really like this feature, it's definitely incredibly useful to know about. If you want to pay off every single home loan in Animal Crossing New Horizons, including the storage options as well, in total you will need to spend 8,996,000 bells. That is a lot of money if you want to get everything unlocked, so I thought I would just share this within the video to help give you a head start so you can know the exact number you need to go for. Also, if you want to get some cool unlocks, you'll need 2,400 house storage if you want to unlock the storage shed. This is one of my favorite items in the game because it makes storage so easy and you can use it anywhere around your island. A lot of people might not understand how you actually have to unlock it, so yeah, you need to upgrade your house enough times to have 2,400 storage. Speaking of upgrades, if you've gotten every single house upgrade available, then you will unlock the ABD. This is something that you can purchase from the Nook Mile shop, the same with the storage shed. So definitely make sure to get every single upgrade because it'll really help you in the long run. A fun little detail is if you want to customize what your character says to other players when they visit your dream island, what you'll have to do is edit your comment. This is on your passport via your Nook phone app, and all you have to do is simply edit the comment to anything you want. You can't really advertise things, it seems like Nintendo will take down islands that do that, but you can put in a general sort of friendly comment and that'll work quite nicely. Next, if you want to get lots of titles for your passport, what you'll need to do is actually get a lot of Nook Mile goals completed. A lot of people don't seem to realize that these are tied directly to Nook Mile goals. So the more of those you unlock, the more you will be able to get these titles and customize. I have so many of these now, I really struggle deciding which ones I actually want to use. But yeah, it's good to have a good variety. A really secret app in the game that you might not know about is the Room Sketch app. You can only get this by having the Happy Home Paradise DLC. Now, the thing about this is you'll have to visit the island 11 different times if you want to do it and have unlocked all the soundscapes that Waddell can give you. The Room Sketch app is really cool because it allows you to design rooms from anywhere at any time you want without really affecting anything on your own island. This app is definitely a must-have for anyone who loves to design within the game, as you don't have to commit to anything, you know, you can simply just sketch your designs out. That's exactly what it's for, and it's really useful. Now, if you find yourself typing really slowly in the game because it is kind of slowly navigating with your controller to each of the letters, an easier and much faster way to type is to download the NookLink app. This is the official Nintendo Switch Online app, and it comes with NookLink, which is a collaboration with New Horizons, and this basically will allow you to type using your phone, and the text will appear in New Horizons. If you don't have this Nintendo Switch Online app, definitely get it from the App Store. It's official by Nintendo, and it'll make typing so much easier for you. A lot of people don't seem to realize that you can actually craft items in resident services. Now, I know to some of you this might seem fairly obvious, but I got quite a few comments of people surprised when they actually saw me doing some crafting in here. I think I kind of get it, because look, this crafting bench is actually kind of inconspicuous. It's not nearly as big as the one in the first upgrade, so I do understand why so many people would miss this. So yeah, even though I'm sure a lot of you do know about this one, I did want to point it out for those who don't. A feature that I feel like definitely gets overlooked a lot is the fact you can send letters to your real friends. If you've had people visit your island, whether that's locally or online, you can send letters to them, not just your villagers. This feature is definitely really overlooked in New Horizons in general because they removed the post office, which makes me so sad, but it still works and you can send gifts to your friends this way. That way you won't have to go through all of these struggles of online, of connecting and going through the airport and such. You can just very quickly send one gift to them via a letter and it'll arrive in their mail, so definitely an incredibly useful feature to know about. You can actually get recipes from your villagers 3 times a day, which is incredibly convenient if you're trying to build up how many you've got and you want to craft more things. You can get them early in the morning, in the afternoon, and also the evening as well. So make sure to check your villager homes to see if they're crafting throughout the day so you can collect more of those recipes. You can also get DIY recipes when you're visiting a friend's island too. If their villagers happen to be crafting, then you can visit them and get a recipe. Don't worry, this won't take away a recipe from your friend, you can both get it, which is really convenient. Of course, your friends can share recipes too if they end up getting duplicates, since the villagers kind of force you to take those. Now, an interesting fact, if you don't like what your villagers are wearing during parties, for example when they attend another village's birthday party, or a special occasion like New Year's, you can actually change their party clothes. Simply gift them some different clothes like you usually would in the category of sort of fancy clothes, and they will wear these when those occasions happen. Sometimes villagers just aren't quite wearing exactly what you'd like, so it's very easy to customize, thankfully. Now, if you start up a new island and you don't happen to like your first few villagers, a mistake that a lot of people often make is they'll simply give up and restart the whole island. Now, whilst this might be quick, you might have actually found the perfect map. It might have the perfect airport color and the perfect starting fruit for you. So don't worry, you can easily hunt for new villagers later. You definitely don't have to worry about who your first 2 are. You don't have to keep them around if you don't want to. Now, when you do go hunting for more villagers, a cool trick is to make sure you drop your ladder before you go. This means that you won't get Nook Mile islands that will end up having multiple stories. It can take a lot of extra time to have to use your ladder each and every time to visit a villager which is on top of the cliffs. So instead, leave your ladder behind, make sure you've still got your vaulting pole, and you won't get any of those islands, which is a really cool detail. Another tip for hunting villagers is you can actually villager hunt the first 3 which move into your new island. These villagers will always be peppy, normal, and also lazy, so you can hunt for them rather than just letting them autofill. This is a part of that quest where you have to place the plots down and gain a certain amount of items in order to get the villagers to move in. It doesn't have to be random, you can choose who they are as long as you go villager hunting and of course find the ones that you actually want. Now, I'm not sure I recommend this too much, but it's definitely something that a lot of people don't realize. Your villagers can actually slowly contribute to bridges and inclines and such. Yeah, it will take a really long time. They probably won't ever pay it off themselves unless you time travel, hundreds of years in the future, but they will slowly and surely pay little bits of money. I'm not entirely sure if this is true, but it might be possible that if you're better friends, they might contribute a little bit more. I'm not sure. I personally just pay these off myself instantly so they can get done, but if you're really short on bells, I guess you could let them contribute a little bit. Now, do you ever find villagers are sometimes just sitting on the ground in your way when you're trying to do things? Perhaps you want to talk to them and gift them something. All you have to do is walk into them like they're in your way and they will stand up. Then you'll be able to fully interact with them, such as giving them gifts. It is quite annoying that when they decide to sit down you can't really do anything with them, but I guess they've got to relax at some point. Now, when you're starting up a new island and you're placing down tons of new villager houses and other buildings, a really good tip is to make sure you place them on the beach. This means they will be out of the way so you can move them later on, rather than having them get in the way of the main portion of the island. Now, the beach has a limited amount of space, you might not be able to get everything there, but definitely you can fit most of your villager homes there, and I do recommend that if you're trying to come up with a good plan for your island, and you don't want to have to work around all these different houses. Then you should only have to move them once more into their final position, rather than have to move them around again and again and again. Another thing that's important to remember when starting a new island is you cannot move the plaza. It is stuck exactly where it is, so keep the position of that in mind when you're choosing a new map. You also can't move the airport either, or change the mouths of your river, aka the ones that are closest to the ocean. So you can terraform and change most things, but these are really important details to keep in mind when selecting a map, as you never know, you might end up regretting it and then have to restart because you can't change it, and that's something you'll probably want to avoid doing, honestly. One more important detail about this is you actually can't change the color of your airport, it is stuck the way it is. I've got this yellow one, and honestly I wish I had gone for a green or blue one instead, but I liked other features about my island when I started up. So yeah, unfortunately I am stuck with this one literally forever because there is no way to change it. Now, speaking of starting up a new island, sometimes when you're just beginning, you need Nook miles quickly. Well, thankfully, there's a lot of different tasks you can do that are really simple, which will net you Nook miles in a quick fashion. For example, you can change the town tune, you could simply change the flag to another design, or write on the bulletin board. These are all really great, easy ways of getting Nook miles quickly. So make sure you take a look through the full Nook miles list to see which ones might be really easy to do early on in the game. How about fishing? One thing you definitely want to avoid when going fishing is running on the beach. This is the easiest way to scare those fish away, and sometimes that might end up being a rare one. Don't run at all on the beach unless you purposely want to scare the fish away, and maybe if you want to get better things to spawn in instead of those pesky sea bass which seem to be everywhere. Now, a lot of players really seem to struggle with fishing, and I'm included in this too. I really am not good at it at all. So a good tip is to make sure to fish by sound, not by sight. Sometimes by focusing on what the fish is doing on your screen, it can kind of scare you and you'll reel in too quickly. So listen to the game and the sounds that it makes, and then you'll know exactly when the fish is biting, and then you can reel it in. I definitely freak myself out way too much with fishing and just feel like it's going to bite really quickly and it never does. So yeah, fish by sound. Speaking of sounds, a lot of the insects you hear around your island aren't just ambient noises, they are actual insects you can catch. For example, things like the cicadas and the crickets, they're actually around, you just need to find them. And of course the mole cricket as well, which is underground. Make sure to listen out for the sound so you can find it. Did you know that you can actually hold your net whilst you're shaking the trees? If you played the past Animal Crossing games but not New Horizons, then you might not know this one, and I actually didn't. This wasn't a thing in past games, but it is something you can do now, so you can keep that net ready for when you want to catch bugs, which is definitely a really good tip. Now, wasps are incredibly scary insects to catch, but I do have some tips on how to catch and also avoid them. For example, you want to make sure you stand in front of the tree with a net so the game will turn you in the direction of the wasps automatically. This means you won't have to try and line yourself up once you've ran away and they might catch up to you and sting you. You'll be ready to capture them right away. This is probably the best and easiest way to get them in my opinion. But what if you don't want to catch them? What if you just want to avoid them? Well, here's a fun fact, you can actually scare away wasps by using the Party Poppers item. You can get these during certain events in the game, but I do believe you can buy them year around in Nook's Cranny. So if wasps are causing you any hassle, get some Party Poppers and it'll scare them. If you want to hide from them because you're afraid of wasps, then hide in one of the pergola items. There are several items like this which I believe you get from Nook shopping by exchanging your Nook miles, and yeah, you can hide in these and wasps will not be able to get you. However, this is only a short-term solution, the wasps will still be following you around, so maybe pair that with something like the Party Poppers and then you'll be completely safe. It is also a good way to line yourself up to try and catch them as well, I believe. Now, if you want to go really drastic, you can use a wetsuit to jump into the water to avoid wasps. This is only if you're absolutely desperate and already wearing one, but wasps will not follow you into the water, which is really handy. Wasps love to hide in trees, and did you know that money trees don't actually regrow? Once you've already used up the money on them, they are done. It is a one and done sort of thing. You'll have to tear them down and replant them if you want more. Personally, I just leave them the way they are. There's so many other easy ways to get bells in the game that I would rather just leave them up for the aesthetics than actually get any money from them. Now, a lot of people like to stunt the growth of their trees when designing. A way you can do this is to actually plant a little sapling behind the tree that you want to stunt. Get the tree to the growth you are happy with, and then plant a sapling behind it so it will not continue to grow anymore. This is a really neat design trick for making cool looking islands with unique tree shapes and sizes and such, so it's definitely one that I recommend. Now, if you cut down a tree and you get a stump, these are really good to keep around your island too. You'll definitely want lots of stumps around. Stumps are a great way to collect all of the bugs in the game, so if you need certain ones, you're missing certain bugs for your museum, then you might want to make sure you've got some stumps, because that could easily be one you're missing. I also personally think they look really cool. Now, if you want to get palm trees on land, use your terraforming app to add some sand and then plant the palm tree on top of it. This is how you can get them outside of the beach. It's a really cool detail and a really nice piece of functionality, especially if you're trying to create an island that maybe has a tropical theme or something like that. This would be a really great way of doing so. Onto gyroids. You don't actually have to collect all the different colored gyroids by burying them in the ground or digging them up. You can simply collect multiple of the same and then actually customize them. Like a lot of other items in the game, all the gyroids can be customized, so you can change their colors to whichever one you like to get the full collection. I know some people really like to collect these things, so hopefully this will help you a little bit to get the ones you've been after. Now, a lot of people forget that you can actually plant and water gyroid fragments so you can grow full ones. But what you might not know is you don't have to wait for it to rain like it did in past Animal Crossing games for these gyroids to come up. You can simply water it with your watering can and it'll come up a lot more quickly. Rain isn't the most frequent thing in Animal Crossing New Horizons, so you definitely don't want to be waiting around for that to happen. Now, if you like custom designs, here's a good tip for you. You can actually place invisible paths next to things on your island and they won't grow. This is a great way of keeping flowers in check. Invisible paths don't look like anything, of course, but they will help keep your island a lot more tidy, which is a feature I really love, so I have so many of these around my island. They've definitely helped stop weeds from spreading, those pesky flowers which seem to go everywhere. They're a really great solution for a lot of different things, so I highly recommend you do it. And of course, an invisible design is something literally everyone can do. It's not like it requires any artistic skill or anything like that, so it's just a really neat little tip that I enjoy. Speaking of flowers, be careful what you are putting over them, because flowers will eat up most things. For example, if a balloon drops on them, they're gone. Fruit, they're gone. Pine cones, things you shake from the trees, they will disappear into big hordes of flowers. If there is room for items to drop around them, they should be fine. But just keep in mind, things won't gently land on top of the flowers for you to pick up. They will go. They will disappear into the void, never to be seen again, which is really sad. Now, if you want to get rid of a ton of flowers or other things around your island, make sure you carry a trash bin with you. This will allow you to easily bin things when doing a big project around the island. I know some of you have islands absolutely infested with flowers that have just taken over, so if you want to get rid of them a bit more quickly, make sure you've got a bin so you can just throw them away with ease. I never bother to sell these to Nook's Cranny. It's honestly not that much money, it doesn't feel worth it, so I would rather just bin them if I want them gone. Now, if you're using your terraforming tool, use the grass path to completely erase things. This will get rid of other pathways you put down and also custom designs instantly. It won't just round them off like using one of the same wood or putting something else down. The grass tool is effectively like an eraser. It's really cool. I definitely recommend using this one as much as possible if you want to get rid of things when doing a big designing project around your island. Don't forget about it. Now, if you decide to build something like a new building on top of furniture, it'll actually appear in the lost box, so don't worry, your item isn't gone forever. You can access this easily in resident services, and you might be surprised about the amount of items that are actually in there. There are a ton of different things, including some exclusive sloppy items which you can only find in here, so make sure you check out the Lost Box as often as you possibly can. You definitely won't regret it. Also, did you know, you can actually put money in the piggy bank and donation box items. These are a neat little way of storing certain increments of bells. I believe it's 1,000 at a time. I don't really get why these aren't connected to anything else though, and I do think it is a bit of a shame you can only store 1,000 at a time. This would have been a neat way of taking sort of tips from people if they came for your island to get turnips or something like that. But yeah, they don't really have too much use, but the functionality definitely is really interesting and something that I had to mention within this video. Now, you'll want to make sure you talk to Sable every single day when you're first starting up the game so you can unlock these fabrics. These certain fabrics can be used to customize items, and you can even put them down on the ground, I believe, and wear them. There are so many of these that you can get from her, so keep on talking to her until you've gotten literally every single one that you possibly can. It is definitely worth it. Speaking of special characters, Gulivarrr is an interesting one who actually doesn't count towards the golden shovel goal that you will get by talking to the regular Gulivarrr. So please keep that in mind when you're interacting with Gulivarrr. He's not quite as useful as the regular one. I've always found him a little bit strange, but to be fair, I do like his pyro items a lot. Now, if you're on Harvey's island and you want to get all of the different haircuts that Harriet will offer to you, you'll have to make sure that you unlock all the shops. It seems like the different haircuts are actually tied to the shops you've opened up, so if you want all of these available to customize your character with, you will need to unlock everything here. I generally recommend doing that anyways because it's just a good goal for the game to have, definitely one of the better goals in the game, especially later on, and you can get some very cool hairstyles, so make sure you're getting all of these unlocked as soon as you can. Now, here's the toilet item, and believe it or not, it does actually have some functionality. If you've got too much energy, you can sit on the toilet and actually get rid of it. This is how you do that. It's quite funny to see this in an Animal Crossing game, honestly. It's not exactly what I would have ever really expected from the franchise, but yeah, this is a thing you can do, and I definitely think it's something you should know about. Probably the most important thing on this list that you should know is that you can back up your island if you have Nintendo Switch Online. Make sure you head to the settings menu on the main title screen and talk to Tom Nook about the island backup, and he will make sure that backups are set up automatically for you. This is to make sure your island isn't lost if your Switch gets damaged or lost somehow. You'll definitely want to make sure this is turned on. 100% make sure it is, because I don't believe it's turned on automatically. It is really important that you have this on so nothing goes wrong. You wouldn't want to lose all of that progress. Now, a fun little thing is if you have the balloon items and you run around your island, if you trip up, you can actually lose them, so be careful about running when you have the balloons. Whilst these items aren't too difficult to obtain and they are just for aesthetical purposes, you might want to keep hold of your favorite balloon, so definitely be careful when you're running around. Now, if you care about the Happy Home Academy and Feng Shui in your home, make sure you don't have any items facing your wall, or it will actually dock points from you. I've never really been too into this feature, but I know some people definitely are, so it is an important thing to note if you are trying to get all those Feng Shui points, and also get as many points as possible from the Happy Home Academy. I do believe you get some trophies and such, so that will be something important to keep in mind if you want to unlock literally everything. If you've completed your museum and you're done with fossils in the game, then you can actually bury 6 of them in a hidden spot to stop them from spawning. Some people might want them to still spawn around so they can get the bells from them, but if you're just completely done with them and you have no use for them anymore, then this might be a good tip. It's just a shame that Blathers can't take them for his own personal collection. That would have been really great. Now, a lot of people do know this one, but it shocked me how much this actually came up in the comments. So many people suggested this one. You can craft faster by pressing the A button. Yes, if you've been crafting slow this whole time, you might be shocked to know that you just needed to mash the A button so that you can craft extra fast. Yeah, again, I know a lot of people already do know this one. I've known it for a long time myself, but it's shocking how many people have only just really learnt this fact, and I'm guessing that some people will only just learn it from the video as well. So let me know if you already knew this one or not, or if it's a first for you. If you want the Nook shopping app on your phone instead of having to go into resident services every time and talking to the terminal, you'll need to buy 100 items from there. Once you've done so, you will automatically unlock it as a phone on your app, and it is so much more convenient to shop through here than it is anywhere else. I really love using this. Now, heading away from the island, if you're talking to Orville and maybe you're going villager hunting or something like that, it is important to note that clapping for him does nothing. This is not functionality within the game. A lot of people believe the myth that if you clap for Orville and he blushes, he will get you a better island. And some people absolutely insist that this is a feature in the game and it worked for them. Well, I can tell you conclusively, there is no evidence whatsoever in the code of the game that this exists. It is completely a myth that was made up. Just because you got lucky by clapping for him, it's just a pure coincidence, honestly. It doesn't actually work as a feature in the game. Don't get me wrong, it would be a really cool idea and I wish they did more stuff like this, but a lot of people don't realize that this is just simply a myth. Now, moving on to the DLC Happy Home Paradise, you can get a recipe every single day from the head chef of the restaurant. Make sure to go into them and talk and you'll get some really unique food recipes. I'm still missing so many of these myself, so it is definitely a really good idea to talk to them and try and get as many as possible. You can also get a free plumeria bush start from the head teacher of the school too. This is just another neat way of getting a free item every single day by having the DLC, although you might find yourself absolutely inundated with bushes by the end of it. You can also get some special items to wear by seeing the doctor. You'll have to talk to the receptionist of the hospital that you've built and then get an appointment, and when you go see the doctor, they will give you some special items to wear. I believe you can only get these items from the hospital, or at least it's certainly a much easier way of doing so. They're kind of things like bandages and such, so if you want to collect everything, make sure you're doing this. Speaking of the hospital, Joan will actually be there on Mondays to give you a certain amount of turnips. It seems like it's a random amount up to 100 every single Monday. If you don't know who Joan is, she is an iconic character who used to sell us the turnips before Daisy May in the past Animal Crossing games. A fun fact about her is she was the first character ever seen in Animal Crossing. She appeared on the train before we had seen literally anyone else. So yeah, she's got a long history with the franchise and she is absolutely so iconic. Now, if you're short on bells or Pokey, you can actually head into the main office, and once you've completed a certain amount of homes within the game, you will be able to convert your Pokey into bells or vice versa. I personally wouldn't convert my Pokey into bells just because bells are so easy to come by. I'd rather use for Pokey, especially with things like the amazing items you can get in the DLC, and also Wardell's shop, which unlocks so many of them that you've used to design. You might as well just get as much Pokey as you possibly can and keep it. Now, if you're visiting some of the homes that you've designed with Niko, you don't actually have to talk to him and leave and go back every single time to visit something. Instead, you can easily go from one home to the other by opening the app that you unlock, and this will take you from one design to another. This is a great and very quick way of visiting a lot of homes in one go. Now, if you design a home for a special NPC character that you've used an amiibo on, they will actually mail you their photo the day after you've designed it. I think this is really cool. Usually you only get these photos for becoming best friends with characters, so it's definitely a neat way of adding to your photo collection by doing some cool designs in the DLC. For the final part of the video, we're going to focus on some common mistakes that you might be making in New Horizons. Not that there's any way to play the game wrong, you can play however you like and still have an amazing time, but there's definitely some good lessons to learn, I feel. Now, one of the features they introduced for the first time in this Animal Crossing game was the autosave feature, which is definitely interesting and can be very handy so you don't accidentally lose your progress if you forget to save. However, sometimes it can be a bit of a hindrance too, and people might not really notice it. You'll see it pop up from time to time in the corner of the screen as a little spinning wheel, which indicates your game is being auto-saved. But sometimes you might not want this to actually happen. For example, if you're testing out a certain design on your island that you really don't want to have to unmake, You might want to simply reset the game quickly so you can have a nice do-over. So a piece of advice I would give is make sure to keep an eye on the autosave, because plenty of people do make the mistake of forgetting this is a thing, and then they're no longer able to reset to undo certain things that they might have regretted doing. Unfortunately, the autosave is pretty frequent, so you don't get a super long window in which you can really utilize this, but I still feel like this is a good thing to keep track of. Moving on, it can be very tempting to sell all of your bugs, fish, sea creatures, and fossils the minute you get them to get more bells. After all, bells are such an important part of the game, especially early on when you're trying to build up your island, and you might just think to yourself, well, I can get these later, so I might as well sell them now. And that is definitely true. However, some bugs, fish, sea creatures, and fossils can be a lot harder to find than others. And just because you find something once, doesn't mean you'll have the luck of finding it again anytime soon. It is definitely true that you should be able to find everything again, but this will require some luck. Even if you're fishing or catching bugs at a certain time of the year to try and find specific ones, you're still going to have to get lucky enough to find them, and some can be pretty rare. So my piece of advice is don't sell everything right away. The bells can be tempting, but there are other good ways of making them. Instead, make sure you donate at least one of everything to the museum. This will save you a lot of stress later on when you really want to complete it, but you're missing out on something because you sold it prematurely. The critters around the island and fossils can be a great way of making bells. So just donate the first one you get of everything, and then you'll no longer have to worry about selling them. You can just sell them to your heart's content and make a ton of profit. Also, Blathers will be very grateful, which is nice, just maybe except for those bugs, he's not a huge fan. Next, don't give up on your island too quickly. This is a mistake I see many people make, and I think we've all kind of felt like sometimes we just want to give up. Whether there's something on our island that is frustrating us that we can't change, or it just feels like we've gone too far and now there's nothing to do. Don't give up on your island too quickly, definitely think it through. So many people end up regretting just restarting their island because something has gone wrong, and they don't realize that actually the game gives you a lot of freedom to change things with terraforming and such. Yes, there are certain reasons that you might want to reset based on the fact you can't change your name, you can't really change certain parts of your island like the resident services placement and the airport, so I do definitely get that. But you should definitely think through if it is something that actually can be changed. And if it is, then it might be a good idea to think on it a little bit longer before you decide to reset. After all, it would be a shame if you lost all of your progress and then you just lost all motivation to play, something I've seen happen so often. That's why I never want to restart my main island, because I know I would never get to build it up the same way again, even if I do get a bit frustrated with how it looks sometimes. Moving on, don't forget about cooking. So many people forget about this feature, but it's so good. It's much better energy than eating fruit, which is what I see people most commonly do, and I'm guilty of this a lot, honestly. I just pick up some fruit and it feels convenient, but getting energy through cooking and the meals you make just is such a lifesaver in this game. If you're ever doing anything with designing, moving trees around your island and breaking rocks and such, then you definitely should be cooking. Not to mention that this makes you a ton of money too, so it's beneficial in multiple ways. I can't recommend this feature enough, it's so much fun. I just feel like a lot of people really tend to forget it exists, but it is definitely one worth using. And don't forget to add lots of cooking tables around your island too for ease of access, or even carry one with you. Next, don't be afraid to come back. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that the game will punish you or just not be as enjoyable if you return from a long hiatus, but this really isn't true. Whilst yes, some weeds might appear and your villagers will have a little tiny bit of dialogue telling you that they missed you, the game really doesn't punish you like it did in past Animal Crossing games. A lot of people have the idea that it's like the original Animal Crossing games, where your island, town, whatever you want to call it, would be absolutely filled with weeds, and your villagers would really basically berate you for leaving. No, it's not like that, and also, your villagers won't have really moved out either. They don't even really do that anymore, and no random ones will have moved in and destroyed all your progress since they can't do that. So yeah, for older Animal Crossing players who are used to the game punishing you, it's not a thing in New Horizons really. There might be a few little things, but it's nothing major honestly, so don't be afraid to come back. Next, talk to everyone and often. Just because a character might seem like they don't really have much of a purpose, I can almost guarantee you they do. I feel like Sable is a good example of this. A lot of people don't seem to realize that you can actually get these special designs from her by talking to her a lot. These are the patterns you can use to customize items with, sort of cool little textures and such, and they're really great, and you'll get more and more of them the more you talk to her. So this is something you should ideally be trying to do every single day in the game. The same goes for the majority of characters, honestly. Talk to them a lot and you'll find you get different rewards, different dialogues and such. We all know that New Horizons isn't the best for dialogue, but there's a lot more of it than you might think, and sometimes it just requires going out there and actively talking to these characters. Now, another piece of advice I would give, a mistake that I do think a lot of people tend to make, and I made this myself so much, it's rushing the game. Yes, it can be very tempting to rush through Animal Crossing to try and get everything done as quickly as possible so your island looks great and you've got everything unlocked, but Nintendo was always kind of intended for us to play this game at a slow pace. Now, you don't have to, everyone can play the game differently, and I think that's what makes Animal Crossing so great. There's no right or wrong way of playing. But in my personal view, I do feel like taking things a little bit slower sometimes is a great benefit. You'll enjoy the game for a lot longer, and you'll be able to kind of see the vision that Nintendo put in place a little bit more. If you do want to rush through things, that's completely fine, but I have known a lot of people to go through burnout this way much quicker than they would if they took it slowly. Speaking of rushing, make sure to take your time when it comes to island placements of buildings and bridges and inclines. Yes, you can move all of these around later on, but it does honestly cost quite a lot of bells in the long run, and removing inclines and bridges and having to put them back up again is such a tedious process that takes many in-game days. So honestly, taking your time with the placement and really thinking out where you want things to go, I feel like is a great idea. Generally, I always say that when you're building stuff for the first time, aside from bridges and inclines, put your buildings on the beach. Things like the museum and Nook's Cranny and the Able Sisters. Put them on the beach before you put them on your island, because then you can move them later on when you've got a final placement for them. It's not a terrible idea to move things around if you really need to, but yeah, it can take a lot of bells, so if you're early on in the game and you don't have a ton yet, you don't want to be dealing with that mistake. So I hope you enjoyed learning about these things as much as I did. It's crazy how many fun things there are to discover in this game. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below, and I'd love for you to share some of the tips and tricks that you have learned. We can help all the new players and even veteran players learn more about the game, which is something I think is so great. If you made it to the end, be sure to comment Bob's Gang so I know you did. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe and turn on channel notifications for more.